Good morning, everyone. Rise and shine. Today is, without question, one of my favorite days. I just picked this thing up earlier today, and I'm pumped to get it open.
Big thanks to Jensen USA, who not only sponsored this video, but they helped coordinate for this loaner Orbea Rise. Thank you, Jensen. And thanks to Orbea for going along with the plan and loaning me one of these things. Jensen is a leading online retailer in the United States of America for Orbea bikes. They have both the analog bikes and the e-bike versions in stock and available. I have a link in the YouTube description below over to the Orbea Rise bikes at Jensen USA. You can learn about the actual various price points they have these at, as well as all the actual specs for each price point, you know, what parts come on it, the actual geometry of the frame, all those juicy details that I couldn't possibly remember. Anything you purchase from that link below will also help support my channel. It's a big part of how we make these happen, so thank you for starting your shopping with that link in the description. Beyond Jensen, I'm also supported by P&W Components and Industry 9.
Heck yeah, this thing looks good. Yeah, okay. This right here is the Rise H10. Previously, we saw a carbon fiber Rise, which is a cool bike, but this version, the aluminum, hydroformed aluminum tube set, has a little bit more weight, but what's really cool about it, the battery is 50% bigger. The regular Rise that you saw last time had a 360 watt-hour battery. This has a 50% larger 540 watt-hour battery. The motor is tuned in such a way that it gets a lot more life out of that battery. I'm expecting range to be pretty darn good on this bike. The bike came with EXO Plus casing tires, which are probably pretty good for most people. I need to run double down casing tires, so I grabbed these. It's an Aggressor double down and an Askai double down. For the tire swap out here, I have this absolutely beautiful wheel set that I built myself from scratch while visiting Industry 9 in Asheville. These things are cool. Do you guys hear that? These wheels have a little bit of a story behind them. I'll do a whole video about building these wheels. We're using the Industry 9 Enduro 315 wheels, 31.5 millimeter inner width carbon rims, aluminum Industry 9 system spokes, running the Hydra hubs, 690 points of engagement, ton. I'm gonna put on a P&W loam dropper. I have a WTB saddle here. I wish I had another Silverado. Maybe I'll throw on an SL8. I wouldn't mind having a little bit more comfortable saddle. These physiques don't do it for me. A couple small tweaks I did. I added a 0.6 volume reducer to the Fox Float DPS rear shock. I've got like 190 PSI in there. I'm 170 pounds. I also put a BergTech offset bushing in the forward shock mount. It should slacken the bike out 3/4 or about 1 degree, something like that. I just downloaded the Shimano eTube app and I tweaked this thing so that the eco mode definitely has a little bit of pep to it. The intermediate trail mode has right in the middle of the whole thing in terms of power and torque. And then the boost is maximum boost. And I moved the speed limit from 16 miles an hour up to 20. I'm gonna take this thing on its first ride, let you guys know how it goes. I'm excited, hope you are too. Today we did what I really like to do, and that's have a really fun trip and bike ride, and then validate it by calling it a bike review. So here we are in the beautiful mountains of British Columbia. I've been riding this Orbea Rise for a few weeks now, but this is the first time we've actually pulled out a camera and filmed with it. I've never ridden at this spot, ever. I think a bunch of you guys have seen it in other YouTube videos from other YouTube creators, which is pretty cool, and I didn't know that until a minute ago. I wanted to ride here on the Rise because we weren't gonna shuttle and it seemed like it's just pretty all-around trail riding. The more I've ridden the Rise, it's more of just a mountain bike, a trail bike. It's not a full-on enduro bike or an all-mountain bike. It's certainly no free ride bike. No! It's just a regular bike, but it's not super heavy, nor is it super light. So pedaled up the hill here, which is a ways, it's a substantial climb. It's BC riding, very steep, and we got to a beautiful little overlook, ate our snacks, and proceeded to drop in. And what you can't see on the camera is that it's been raining tons here in the Northwest this spring. So it was very muddy and wet. Right out of the gate, we saw this cool rock thing I thought it'd be fun to sprint into and try to clear like a tabletop.
And a lot of the times when I find weird jumps like that, like traditionally as a BMXer, I would say it doesn't count. It's not cool if you don't actually smoothly clear it. And yeah, I wanted to smoothly clear it.
It's hard to get
I put this even in super duper boost mode and fully sprinted into it. And I cased it every single time. But it was tricky. You don't have room to get speed. That's why I like trying things like that, because they're hard. Sometimes they don't look perfect. Well, go and try them. If you can do it perfect, props to you. On this bike, I end up leaving it in trail mode 90% of the time. I'll put it in boost that other 10%, and that's when I find some weird, tricky climb that's too steep to make it up without bumping into boost, because the way these bikes don't have that much power, and they're also speed limited to 20 miles an hour, if you're cruising on a flattish road at 15 miles an hour, then you put it in boost, you might all of a sudden go 16 or 17. On the super steep stuff, that's when you're gonna notice the difference between trail and boost. The difference isn't massive, but the boost eats your battery life so much faster. Today, I haven't even gotten into the red zone of the battery yet, and generally on like regular mountain bike rides like this, it's not an issue. At home, I have some like really long, steep climbs, like 3,000 foot climbs, and I can usually get about 2 of those on one battery, and then it's turned red, game over, 8% battery left, 5%, whatever. So we found a head high drop to almost flat, which on this bike is a little bit intimidating. This bike's fairly short in wheelbase, got kind of a longish back end and pretty steep head angle. And I have put the largest volume reducer I really wanted to into the rear shock, and I wish I even went bigger. You don't have tons of suspension travel, front or rear. So sending this drop, it wasn't terrible, but you can see my head bobbing all over the place a little bit. In between these features, on the actual, when you're actually trail riding on the Rise, it still feels generally like a mountain bike. There's one asterisk to that, but when you pump it through corners, when you're leaning it over and carving, it's not so heavy that it's flopping down and then hard to pick back up. No, you can use your legs and your upper body simultaneous, and it's pretty natural. It feels like a bicycle. When you start to get airborne, that's when you start to notice the weight of the e-bike. And also, the back end of this thing isn't super stiff. One of the biggest complaints I have about this bike is the dropper seat post space. I keep yelling about not having enough dropper seat post room. Well, this bike is guilty as charged. I feel like they should have put the charge port above on the down tube instead of on the seat tube, because on the Occam, I could run my regular massive seat drop, 180 whatever millimeters, felt great. On this, I'm stuck at 150, and I really would appreciate having more. We found a cool manual line, drop off a step down, land in a manual, hold it, and then kick off a little kicker thing. But at one point, I actually slid sideways while manualing and almost sent myself into the forest. Somehow avoided disaster, but that was fun and exciting. We did hit a few steeper trails today, and I like this bike. And because it is so small and light, you can just pull up and kind of bunny hop it from line to line. So if you get stuck in some kind of a rut, not a huge deal. If you need to huck on some kind of a steeper trail, you can totally get away with that. And you've got margin for error in the terms that you can manipulate the bike and move it around. Whereas on like a heavier traditional e-bike, you jump and you've kind of committed to that line, and the bike's weight and inertia is just gonna take you there, whether you like it or not. I wanna ride this bike in a few more places, and we'll put together a super fun video of getting to know the Orbea Rise a little bit more. Thanks everyone for watching. Please do hit the red subscribe button below, and leave me a note in the comments. Would you prefer a lighter weight e-bike, or would you prefer a heavy duty, gnarlier bike with more power and more battery life? I can make a case for either. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.
Fast forward a few more weeks, I've been riding the Rise a bit more. I'm trying to learn some more trialsy type techniques with the motor and the extra bit of power. With the weight of the bike, yes, I do need to do a lot of work with my upper body. The bike weighs about 47 pounds, so about 4 pounds lighter than a full-size e-bike. One of my favorite aspects of the EP8 motor is that it continues to provide power after you stop pedaling for a fraction of a second. I've been able to use this to help boost bunny hops and pedal kicks in kind of a unique Moto Trials inspired way.
So let's see how we can do on this little maneuver. Nope. Didn't make it. Need to try harder. Need to suck less. Didn't quite do the whole thing, but good enough for now. The Rise is basically the electric equivalent to the Occam that I had on the channel a little while ago. The front triangle is quite a bit stiffer because the battery means there's a bigger down tube, and that feels really good. Back end's a little bit longer. Doesn't quite manual as well as like the Occam did. The Occam was a great manualing bike. In terms of geometry, a bit more traditional, kind of a steeper head tube, a little bit shorter top tube and wheelbase, which there's places where that's great and there's places where it's a little bit harder to deal with. This bike excels in like traditional mountain bikey spots. It's not so much like a backcountry expedition style e-bike. So with that said, let's drop in and do a fun little ride on the Orbea Rise Hydro. Let's send it. I should have enough battery to go down the hill in the boost mode, and I might be able to show you guys why I like to do that. There we go. I'm not jumping that right now. It's a fun jump though. There we go. Oh, close call there. That's a fun jump. There we go. So the boost mode keeps the power going to the rear wheel for about 1 second after you finish pedaling, which for steep little rises is amazing. Could be why they call this bike the Rise. Oh, this jump's hard. I don't think I can get enough speed. Almost. Oh, smashed that rim so hard. Still good. Still good. Cool. That's why I run double down casing tires. And then these Industry 9 wheels feature those rims from We Are One that are quite strong.
I don't quite have 500 miles on the bike yet, but I'm trying my best to put as many miles on this bike as I can. I will say that the upper linkage is a little bit creaky, and I haven't figured out exactly how to quiet it down. This time of the year, things are super dusty, and everything is really, really noisy on all of my bikes, so this little creak is not something I'm highly concerned about.
That's an unfortunate time to lose it.
I did have an issue with the stock chain guide, so I pulled it off and promptly dropped the chain on a trials maneuver the other day. I've been learning little tricks here and there to get the Rise to do things that I want it to do, like big old bunny hops up onto ledges. Just find a little bit of a bump to use for some extra help. Thus far, I'm really enjoying having that extra progression in the rear shock thanks to that bigger volume reducer, and I'm enjoying the slightly slacker geometry with that offset bushing. The Rise is perhaps one of the most well-known e-bikes at this point in time because it really helped change the barometer of the e-bike marketplace to make lighter, smaller e-bikes more commonplace. I do think there's a time and a place for both adaptations of the e-bike segment, so stay tuned as I compare this to the Rocky Mountain Instinct.
This stuff's too much fun!
Again, big thanks to Jensen USA for sponsoring this video, and if you're interested in the Rise, please do learn more about it at the link in the description just below. Also thanks to P&W Components for the cockpit, and to Industry 9 for the wheels. Above all else, thanks to all of you for watching this video, and thank you for leaving me your thoughts in the comments down below. Alright, with that, it's time to go ride. Peace, everyone.